A number of former Concord players are not happy with the success of Rivals, with one questioning, why did Concord have to die and Marvel Rivals gets to live? Roll this up over at fandompulse.com. You can find the link in the description below. Encourage you head on over, become a paid subscriber. It costs less than a Starbucks coffee, just $5 a month, and you help support us, and we are fully reader funded. So let's get to this right here. This was originally discovered by YouTuber Hirohei, that these former alleged Concord players were not happy that their game is dead and that Marvel Rivals is succeeding. And he found an entire thread over on the Concord subreddit. The first basic question is asking like whether or not Concord fans have tried Marvel Rivals and what their first impressions were. So pretty innocuous topic post, right? But the cope starts out at the top. The top-ranked response currently reads, "It plays nothing like Concord. I personally don't like the movement or shooting at all and don't get all the hype and praise it's getting. If you want similar gameplay to Concord, Destiny 2 is your best bet. But the PvP in that game is basically unplayable, unfortunately, but the PvE is still good." Another person responded saying, "I feel like the majority of the hype praise it's getting is just because it's one of the first good online Marvel games to come out in this entire period of MCU box office domination, which is waning, and a lot of people who are unhappy with Overwatch trying to signal boost a competitor. The game itself feels pretty damn unpolished and unbalanced compared to Overwatch and even Concord." So they're not happy with Marvel Rivals and its popularity. Another person asked this, "Why did Concord have to die and Marvel Rivals gets to live? It's not as fun as Concord by a long shot. I hate this timeline. Hate this timeline." This person here, Post Foundation 6246, says, "Well, charging $40 when literally every hero shooter is free was a very big misstep." And then Desperate Counter saying, "Being free wouldn't save the game, buddy, and Marvel Rivals isn't having success because it's free." And then Past Foundation continued saying, "Is one of the main factors of its demise." I 100% completely and totally disagree with that assertion. You can go back and look at the open beta for that game when it was free. It didn't even get over 3,000 concurrent players. So even if they made that game free to play, it still would have failed. People were just not interested in playing it. And I think one of the main reasons is because of its art style and aesthetic. If you go back and look at the comments on the original kind of reveal for the game, everyone was just kind of like, what is this Guardians of the Galaxy ripoff? Why is it a hero shooter, etc.? And then why are all the characters ugly? And why are they clearly DEI inspired? Lots of comments like that on those original uploads to the Sony PlayStation YouTube channel for both like the gameplay as well as like the cinematic trailer that they released. A lot of people were also hoodwinked, I think, by the cinematic trailer, thinking it was going to be a single player game. And then they revealed the gameplay and it was not. Desperate responded to the cope there saying, "Yeah, let's say then it was free to play. Now tell me the difference, how much longer it would last. Game, even on free beta, hit 2K and keep drop players already on that time." Yeah, there was actually a report from I think it was like the True Trophies. They track PlayStation playtime. They have a whole chart, and they indicated that the second beta actually saw less people playing than the first one. So interest in this game actually waned after the first free beta that people are allowed to play. And if you go back, you have to remember they were going to be highly restrictive on the first beta, but then they opened it up because they just weren't getting enough people to play the game because there was such lack of interest in the game due to the awful first impression they gave with the game. And I think a lot of people were indeed like hoodwinked by the cinematic trailer. And then when they saw the gameplay, they're like, this is not what I was expecting at all. Anyways, Desperate goes on and says, "Doesn't make a single difference. Paint a ship with other color. If you don't fix the holes, it will sink anyway. Again, Marvel Rivals have its own factor. did understood well what made Overwatch 1 successful, create at least an interesting mechanic for saying it's different, knows what a multiplayer needs, and that's why it succeeded, not because of a price tag, which many didn't have and many fail. Seriously, people, stop thinking free-to-play is the answer for everything. It just shows how clueless you guys are. Yeah, I mean, World of Warcraft is still around. You look at Final Fantasy XIV, those are obviously not free-to-play games. You pay a subscription, and they are still doing really, really well. So this idea that everything needs to be free to play in order to succeed is just utterly ridiculous. 100% agree with that assertion. Nevertheless, Concord fans rolled out the cope. We've got this guy here, the third letter. He says Concord failed not because of its own, or not because of its design, gameplay, price, or quality as a game, but because it became a target in a culture war. From the moment it was announced, discussions about the game were dominated by negativity. Critics labeled it as dead on arrival, woke, or trash before there was even a beta or gameplay footage. This constant negativity overshadowed the game itself. It's because it was, right? It was woke, it was trash, and it was all about DEI, and it was dead on arrival. We were absolutely right. Our predictions were correct that it was dead on arrival, and it was woke. Remember, we found out after the game was released in that 2 weeks that they were literally inserting transgender ideology into the game. One of the characters was obviously modeled off of a so-called transgender person. And they were pushing them. They had pronouns and everything on the character models as well. So, of course, we were going to lampoon it for that because that's what it was. Despite being fun for those who actually played it, that's not true either. I mean, sure, some people enjoyed it, but when I remember covering all of the actual kind of like gamer reviews that got people like that played the beta, most people were like, this is kind of just mediocre. That's what we heard from a lot of people. And then they really had a lot of criticisms about the progression systems, etc., within the game. Anyways, the backlash was so intense that even liking the game invited ridicule. Of course it did, because you're liking a game that's literally has pronouns and is pushing weirdo DEI or sicko evil DEI agendas. Of course you're going to get ridiculed for that, as you should. You shouldn't be liking a game that is pushing evil, and you should be mocked for that. In the end, more people criticized Concord than actually experienced it, which made it impossible for the game to succeed. I agree. That is correct there. In a follow-up, the user added this right here. So you're saying that the problem was lack of hype of a game that got effectively no promotion until right before launch, not the culture war. That's also not true. The game got plenty of promotion, obviously. It had the whole PlayStation trailers, etc. They were going on with VGC. There was obviously the open beta, etc. You had all of like the top streamers checking the game out, sharing their opinions about it. So I think it got a lot of promotion. This idea that it didn't get any promotion, I think, is gaslighting from IGN. I remember one of their writers was like, Sony didn't want to support the game at all, when that's absolutely not true. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars on this game. They gave it like a huge showcase in one of their PlayStation State of Plays, and then obviously they had 2 open betas, and it failed. It absolutely failed because it failed to entice an audience. Anyways, this third letter guy goes on and says, there was no chance for hype and little promotion before Concord launched. That's not true. Just talked about that. And today, content creation is the best form of marketing. Platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram are now the primary ways gamers discover new titles, far outpacing traditional ads or reviews. Games like Among Us and Fall Guys succeed thanks to creators, not billboards. The problem with Concord was that most of the content created around it was negative, and in a time when word of mouth and influencer endorsements are key, that negativity had a huge impact on its failure. I 100% agree with that, but it's also because of the first impression that they gave us, where it was like, here's pronouns, here's a bunch of ugly characters, here's a bunch of generic gameplay. Anyways, the guy concluded saying most of the content about Concord is rooted in culture war topics. Well, that's what the game was. The game literally had the pronouns, literally had the DEI character designs. They were promising these vignettes that were obviously going to be pushing the woke agenda. It was so obvious that that was the game. The game was literally made to try to engage in the culture war. Like, let's be honest about that. They made the game to do that. The person continued here saying, well, we got this response. Most of the content is about culture war because there's nothing else to talk about the game. Gameplay is not something you can talk about, only try. Where's the mystery? Where's the innovation? Where's the new thing it brings? I mean, people were talking about the gameplay again, but people were saying it was kind of mediocre. I remember Angry Joe's review. There was like Skill Up did one as well. None of these people were praising the gameplay of the game, even when they tried it out. And most of them actually didn't even talk about the pronouns or anything like that. And when they did talk about the character designs, they refused to basically say DI. Many of them danced around it. They were just like, well, it's not always going to be the art style that you might like or the character designs that you might like, etc. Anyways, this guy goes on and says, the fact that most of the conversation about Concord shifted to a culture war is more a reflection of the discourse surrounding it than the game itself. Again, this is not true. The game literally had pronouns in it. It was literally pushing transgender ideology. It was obviously pushing DEI character designs. Like, this game was made to be part of the culture war, and it was part of the evil side of the culture war that we are fighting against. Let's be honest about that. This person is not being honest about that. Gameplay can only be fully understood by trying it, sure, but that doesn't mean it didn't have potential. Many games with innovative mechanics have had slow starts or been misunderstood initially. Among Us was around for over a year before it took off, thanks to content creator. As for mystery and innovation, Concord was trying to do something different with its setting and characters, but it never got the chance to show what it could truly bring to the table. This is not true either. Everything looked like just a generic ripoff derivative of James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy movies. It did not look like it was trying to do anything different aside from ramping up the DEI and wokeness, which is what they were going to do with those vignettes. The negativity and noise drowned out any meaningful discussion before people even gave it a shot. Again, that negativity is meaningful. It was definitely meaningful. I think Sony might see it as meaningful given the fact that the game was literally shut down in less than 2 weeks, and then they shut the studio down a little over a month later after shutting the game down. It's easy to dismiss something as lacking when it wasn't given a fair chance to demonstrate its strengths. The real question is, was it genuinely unoriginal, or was it overshadowed by bad faith arguments and premature judgment? Nobody tried it, but everyone had something to say. You don't need to try something in order to realize that it's absolutely terrible. When they're showing that they, again, have the pronouns and they have the ugly character designs, why would I want to play something like that to begin with? I don't. We got another person here saying, maybe it looks ugly. I'm going to sound like a broken record responding to you 3 times now, but here we go. Saying maybe it looks ugly doesn't matter because looks alone don't make or break a game. Plenty of hit games like Minecraft aren't pretty, but succeed because of great gameplay and ideas. Again, missing the point. Those characters were intentionally made ugly because of the DEI agenda. This guy does not want to address this at all. He doesn't want to address the elephant. In Concord's case, the characters being ugly is subjective. That's absolutely not true. Beauty is objective. It is not subjective. That is a lie that has been spread. I think we understand this when you look at, even when you look at, you see all these studies about when they actually look at what people prefer. It's very obvious that there is an objective measure of what beauty is. So this idea that it's subjective, it's cope. It's absolutely cope. And it's just this guy he's liking things that are ugly. And that's probably a character defect that he has. Especially since many were aliens, focusing on, you can have attractive aliens too, like, let's be real. Liara to Sony, I think from Mass Effect is a primary example. Like stop it. Focusing on looks ignores what really matters, gameplay and the overall experience. So again, he's trying to say that those things don't matter when they do, right? The looks do matter. You do get a vibe from things, and when it like screams at you that this is woke DEI agenda, that turns most sane people off because they don't want to be getting lectured in a game, which is what the game was promising with the vignettes. Concord didn't fail because of its design. It totally did. It failed because negativity overshadowed its potential. He's still on this. He can't talk about it. This guy just basically says first impression really matters. Also, you can't say that just because they're aliens, then every standard design convention didn't matter anymore. Since Warframe designs are really loved. Also, Minecraft looks really great for what it is. Also, you kept on saying potential, then we both agree that this good quality never even there in the first place. Just a wishful thinking from the fans. Like, just just getting him. So, I mean, there's a bunch more in that Reddit thread. Those are just a couple of examples here. But as you can see, like, it didn't even get over 700 when it actually released. It did worse than the open betas. 697 was its peak concurrent when it first released. And then, as I said earlier, less than 2 months after the game was shut down, Sony announced it was closing Firewalk Studios. The developer, Herman Holtz, said this regarding Firewalk, as announced in early September. Certain aspects of Concord were exceptional, but others did not land with enough players, and as a result, we took the game offline. We have spent considerable time these past few months exploring all our options. After much thought, we have determined the best path forward is to permanently sunset the game and close the studio. I want to thank all of Firework for their craftsmanship, creative spirit, and dedication. In contrast, Marvel Rivals is doing extraordinarily well. It hit a peak concurrent player count of 480,990 on its first Sunday after being released in early December. It was actually released, I think, on December 6th, the Feast of St. Nicholas. And the game has maintained a solid player base for its first month, with the most recent 24-hour peak coming in at 415,651 concurrent players. I mean, you can see that is a very, very nice little graph there, pretty much staying flat over its first month, and does not look like it is going to lose players anytime soon. This game looks like it is here to stay, and has basically kept its original audience, which is very, very good. So Concord people not happy that the Marvel Rivals is succeeding while its game was shut down because no one played it. But let me know what you guys make of these people just not happy with Marvel Rivals and the fact that their game that they allegedly enjoyed was shut down. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.